There's a gentleman sitting right next to me who should be familiar to you all. He is now officially classified as a repeat offender on the coalition. This is his second appearance here at the Go Local Live Broadcasting Center. Of course, I'm talking about Representative Bob Lancia, he of Cranston fame, who's going to join us and talk about a number of initiatives he's taking regarding this and other salient issues up at Halitosis Hall, i.e. a Mordor. You might call it Smith Hill. I call it the source of all darkness and evil. Joining us in a few minutes, Capri Catanzaro, of course, from the Progressive Democrats. You might know her as one of the head honchos, as the verbalista, the woman who brings, in her own unique fashion, a great deal of common sense and a great deal of strong-mindedness, if you will, to the issues facing everyday Rhode Islanders. Ethan Giles will be joining us. He, of course, ran in a primary a couple years ago for Aaron Regenberg seat. He stayed very, very active. He's involved in a couple of different initiatives, solar power being one of them, but also he is fundamental to the Stop the Stadium crowd coming from the east side and Providence, doing very important work there. Community activist, and here at the coalition, that is a term of high honor. We are NFL free to this afternoon. We will not be talking about standing, kneeling, any of that. So, as we said in the run-up to today's show, this tonight is wonk heaven. If you're a wonk and you're proud of it, and you want to talk issues, outrage porn-free issues, you're in the right place. A couple of programming notes. First of all, we have with us this week a brand new sponsor. Of course, I'm talking about the New England Cannabis Convention. A convention, a function, an educational institution, if you will, dedicated to the study, research, and dispersion, if you will, of information for the medical cannabis movement here in New England. They're going to be joining us at the Providence Civic Center on the 28th and 29th of this month. Tickets are available. We'll show you how. We appreciate them joining us. In past years, they've been able to disseminate common sense information on the medical cannabis card if you will, process. Important training, if you will, on the proper use of medical cannabis, different medibles issues. A variety of vendors will be there. Legal counsel will be there. Folks, if you've got someone in your family who has taken ill, chronic pain, late-stage cancer, there are a number of neuromuscular diseases. Folks, this is an event you want to go to if you're a caregiver, a caretaker, or if you're a patient yourself. A lot of information is going to be here right in downtown Providence in one place to go. Of course, that's the 28th and 29th. Links will be provided to this on the coalitionradio.us website. And we're going to have, in a couple weeks, we'll be having folks in studio to talk about medical cannabis movement, as well as some of the vendors who will be appearing. Also, next week, 2 weeks from now, at the Lincoln School in Providence, Rhode Island. Folks, you may or may not be aware of this, but the Lincoln School Children's Book Festival will be taking place. Over the past 15 years or so, this has risen to be one of the most prominent, one of the most important children's book festivals in the nation. Now, in children's book world, the equivalent of an Academy Award is the Caldecott Awards. Caldecott Awards are sort of a Pulitzer Prize, if you will, for children's literature. Authors of those books and the books themselves will be well represented. If you've got a small child up to high school age, it's a great place to go. It's on behalf of a great cause, and we'll have Lincoln School faculty staff here to discuss this. It's a wonderful way to spend the Saturday afternoon. But I would be remiss if we didn't get right to the issues. And again, joining us in the studio for his second appearance is Representative Bob Lancia. He represents Cranston, and there's a number of things we're going to talk about tonight. But our open mic session, if you will, is going to revolve largely around one issue, and that's Paw Sox. Welcome back. It's great to have you in the studio.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I appreciate how responsive you are to these different issues that arise. Your willingness to address folks, the body politic, as we call it here, in a in-your-face, kind of unfettered, unrestrained fashion is refreshing. So thanks for coming on again. You've got a full weekend planned ahead of you. Tell us what's on your mind with regard to the Paw Sox and some of the things you're going to be involved in this weekend.
Sure. Actually, tomorrow morning, last Saturday of the month, I always do my coffee with constituents, Panera Bread in Cranston, and I'm going to have a petition there, and I'm going to be collecting signatures. It is my intention to testify on the 10th, and I want to have hopefully as many as 2,500 signatures to present to them, folks that are in opposition to the Paw Sox Stadium. I mean, I love the Paw Sox as much as anybody.
Right.
I've gone to games, but it just does not make sense for me. And the question I asked and continue to ask is, why do we have to get involved financially? The owners we saw in the paper, combined wealth of between $8 and $10 billion. Mm-hmm. It just makes no sense to me, and I still don't have an adequate answer for that. I happened to listen to Tara Granahan on the radio when she was speaking to the Speaker of the House, and she asked him the question outright: would you, be opposed to putting it before the people? He said he wasn't, and now driving here to be with you, both the Senate President and now the Governor had said they're also not opposed. Mm-hmm. And my statement to that is, then let's do it. Right. I think that's the way to go. My concern is, let's face it, we're in a very difficult position financially, mm-hmm. And that's an understatement. And as I was sharing, last year, 2 years ago, we had a $140 million surplus. A year ago, this past budget session, 63. And of that amount, they committed almost all of it, again, because we have a looming deficit now of $237 million. Mm-hmm. The governor, the Speaker wants the car tax, to go away. And that was supposed to be, I think, he never, during his run for re-election, he never mentioned time frame. So we all assumed it might have been a one-shot deal. However, we heard 5 years. Now we're hearing 7 years. And of course, the Senate took them on the last day because they were concerned about the financing as well, the funding, the ability to fund it. So that's on the table. They've asked the governor to find $25 million in unspecified cuts. Mm-hmm. What really bothered me the most is, and I just wanted to share this with you, transfers and scoops that were enacted in the 18 budget. What people don't know what that is, basically government goes into other accounts of other agencies and literally takes or scoops money and puts it toward the general budget. Right. And I have the list in front of me. $700,000 from medical marijuana receipt. You just talked about medical marijuana. $3.5 million from the infrastructure bank. $5 million from the Narragansett Bay Commission, $6 million from the Rhode Island Health and Educational Building Corporation, $12.5 million from the Electric and Gas Distribution Company, specifically the Energy Efficiency Fund. Right. And I testified at the PUC against the latest National Grid rate increase, and I would have said, why couldn't we take this $12.5 million and create a fund for those who are in need? We heard one woman testify she's $20,000 behind in her electric. Her husband went through all kinds of medical issues. $1 million from the Quonset Development Corporation and $1 million from Rhode Island Housing. Add that all up, $29.7 million was scooped. Right. Still, we need another $25 million from the governor. And in addition, this is a pet issue of mine, that dollar fee on your landline, the dollar fee on your 911 plus a 26-cent charge, they're stealing $15 million a year out of your and my pocket, supposedly for 911, which ceased to exist as a separate entity in 2009, now falls under public safety. They collect $15 million a year. So that's 29.7, add another 15, it's $44.7 million. It's unbelievable. And I testified twice, put a bill in to get rid of them, either allocate it to where it goes or get rid of it. Stop lying to people. And basically, each year I'm told, well, we need the money.
We need the money. Yep. And yet somehow, magically, we're led to believe that we have yet another risk-free, can't-miss, silver bullet investment, as I like to say, break glass, add water, in the form of the Pawtucket Red Sox. That somehow, and a gentleman named John Gwynn actually pointed out on social media to me yesterday that somehow moving the stadium 3,500 feet, something incredible like that, is going to result in a renaissance. Now, you bring up an important point. We've known about the Senate hearings now for some time now. It's just been recently announced that the House, I guess, is it the House Finance Committee?
Yes.
Is going to be formally hosting?
Yes.
The Senate Finance Committee, to their credit, has opened up each of their hearings to individual senators and given them, if you will, something akin to ex officio status to come on the stage, ask questions, listen, be part of that. Is the same process going to happen, to your knowledge, with the House Finance, or are you going to have to appear as a quote unquote private citizen?
I would assume that I will appear as a person just testifying. We hadn't heard the parameters yet. The other thing is the fact that I know they've shortened the time, even when they have the hearings. But I think the 10th is when it will be House Finance. So it is my intention to be there, to have my signatures, because after my coffee, we have, of course, Gloria Gemma Breast Cancer Weekend. My wife and I are heavily involved in that. And then that following day, starting on the 1st, we're going to be going door to door with my fall newsletter, some palm cards, and a petition. And I'm going to try to gain as many, close to 25 signatures as possible.
That's excellent. I mean, you're doing what needs to be done, and is bringing the issue to the people. I was challenged a few weeks ago to the notion that folks simply didn't care about this anymore. And my thought, I love your reaction to this, my thought is that Rhode Islanders every day engage in what I'll call a political whack-a-mole. An issue pops up, it takes on life-threatening importance. Many of them are critical to people, whether it be the tax on medical cannabis, whether it be, the Attorney General's decision to conduct, promote legislation conducting warrantless searches of the prescription medical database. Any one of these things, bang, 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 every day. There's a certain level of exhaustion with the body politic because, quite frankly, and our guest in the 8 o'clock hour from the Goldwater Institute is going to attest to this, that the cost of living is so high, that government regulations are so onerous that simply surviving the day for most people, that is going to their job somehow, in many cases, one or two jobs, as Rhode Island continues to face a great underemployment crisis, taking care of their children, stopgapping their children's educational needs. All of these issues has led to, I think, just an exhaustion by people. Because every issue is life affirming. Every issue is the next most important thing. And so people, I believe, mistook that sort of exhaustion with not caring. Now that the issue has been raised to the fore through a combination of activism, and we're going to have a number of activists on today as well, besides yourself, through the media's sudden coverage of it, because it's become media sexy right now, through the abomination that these first two hearings have been, and they have been sideshows, a circus-like element to it. Now all of a sudden people have awoken. And folks are pissed. I don't know, all due deference to you, Representative NC, I don't know a more polite way to put it, but people are pissed. And they see the same, we are now 2 hearings into this. This sideshow has been going on for now 3 years. And I love your reaction to this. We have yet to see finished legislation in front of us. We have yet to see the fine points our next guest has been instrumental in raising, and of course Capri Catanzaro, who's in studio now, will be joining us on our next segment, but has been instrumental in raising, her and Sam Bell, pointing out all the promises publicly made that have yet to materialize in the written form. We have yet to see an economist take the stage to discuss any of the financial or economic implications of this. All we are treated to for the last 2 shows have been either at 3 minutes at a clip or 20 minutes at a clip or seemingly days at a clip, are the entire payroll of the Pawtucket Red Sox, a variety of well-intentioned but clearly connected social and welfare groups in Pawtucket who are just desperate to create the impression that there is this overwhelming demand for the state of Rhode Island to put tens of millions of dollars at risk, not the least of which is the city of Pawtucket collateralizing its going forward state aid so that we can have a baseball stadium. What do you think of that? I'll take it back.
Well, that's a mouthful. But essentially, what concerns me is what I just said. We already cannot run our government efficiently. We already are bleeding red ink. Mm-hmm. We underfunded DCIF by $7 million. Yet they were able to find $700,000 for 3 magistrates positions at the last moment when we were closing the budget.
And how, by the way, what kind of year is DCYF having? And I'm not trying to politicize this. This is human tragedy at its most immediate. What's happening in DCYF right now?
Oh, we're losing children. We've lost so many children, at least a dozen. And when I had my sex offender legislation I was putting in, at the time I was having my community forums, we had lost 4 children. That's when the governor was emergency hiring 70 social workers. We had needed 119. What she had hired was 35 administrators at $100,000 each, $3.5 million, but we need 119 workers. So they'd have the appropriate caseloads. But she emergency hired 70, not the 119. We still had, I think, the 35 administrators for 100,000. Something didn't make sense. Now, you talk about the stadium. Let's go back and let's not have short memories. Let's look at the convention center. The convention center. We underwrite that convention center for $30 million a year. We've been doing it for 20 years. We've underwritten that facility for $600 million. That was a facility, when built, we were told from year one,
Absolutely.
It would make at least $1 million a year.
Right.
And we have sunk $600 million, and there's no end in sight.
No.
And we have no more events there than we did when we just had the dunk. No more events. So that concern, that scares me. You know what I mean? I have my concerns. If we look back at history, they say if you don't look back at history, right?
Right.
History's the best teacher. And I think the other thing too is, again, I love having. It would be great having a minor league baseball team. We love revitalizing the area. But again, the necessity for the state, because everybody's concerned about 38 studios. But even without that, when we look at the figures itself, what the state is unable to do with their own money now to invest in something like that. Our schools are falling apart. We understand that. There's so many other things where money needs to go, and I don't think it's a ballpark.
Has anyone proven to you at any level that this so-called dynamic ancillary development that they claim that is the linchpin of their strategy for downtown, has anyone proven to you that any of that is even possible?
We're seeing more come out now about certain land and who gets what and how is this good, and there's some questions of things that were said but there's no proof that it's going to be done.
Right.
So that more issues I think keep surfacing as we look closer into this.
Right.
And that's a concern.
Now you're a state representative, so while everyone as a citizen here is entitled to a transparent display of all the information involved, it would seem to me that the folks, particularly in the House of Representatives, from where expenditures are decided upon, from where budgets occur, from where taxation is developed, essentially where the nuts and bolts of daily government takes place. Not in the Senate, despite what Senator Ruggiero thinks, it takes place in the House of Representatives. That's true here in Rhode Island as well as nationally. We are a bicameral state. There are allegedly the same checks and balances that exist in Rhode Island as they appear in the federal government. We know better, but my point being, as a state representative, even if you're not on the finance committee, I would have thought it would have been incumbent upon the Pawtucket Red Sox baseball club to sit down with your body at this point and engage in an afternoon-long, intense discussion, educational effort. So that, should it make it out of the House Finance Committee, that you'll be well informed and have had ample time to discuss with your community, the folks that you've been empowered to represent, and we could have observed some type of intellectual honesty. Has anything like that taken place at any level?
No, it hasn't. And I think, honestly, I thought this was a dead issue a year ago, right? And then it just popped up again. And it popped up on the Senate side. And so the Senate is really kind of taking the lead on this. And the House is, and even the Speaker, is kind of sitting back a little bit, watching what's going on.
Right.
I mean, the Senate President even suggested, they might have a November vote. So, how this came, it just rose, really, literally, I thought it rose from the dead.
Right.
And that was kind of strange.
But that's how things work in Rhode Island, because nothing ever, I call it zombie legislation. And the reason I use zombie legislation is because nothing ever really dies, does it? No. And it is subject to, think Frankensteinian nightmares, but it is subject to regeneration literally at any moment.
You're right.
And am I being cynical when I say that these steps that we're going through right now, which seem organic, are largely well planned out months ahead of time, sort of like a dumbed down version of a chess game?
There's definitely things been going on in the background, unbeknownst to a lot of people, and now it's popped up. And I think it popped up when people were ready to have it pop up and had what they thought their ducks in a row enough.
Right.
And people are raising that issue now, saying, well, not so fast, because we're not sure your ducks are in a row, and we want to, check and challenge you on this. And and I think it's due diligence, and we have to do due diligence with everything going on with the finances. Looking down the road, we're over $11 million short in our first month of collections. We're looking at a $237 million deficit. I just those numbers are staggering, and to think that we have that money to spend on something like this, when the people, again, $8 to $10 billion net worth, have all the ability to take care of it themselves.
And I want to say, generally speaking, we're in the midst of a positive economic cycle. So if we're displaying these type of structural deficits during a time which is clearly, revenue accretive for most of the nation, what the hell do we do when it hits the fan again?
I agree, and here's the other thing. I mean, we're going to go at this in January. I'm working with the gentleman who was instrumental in getting the tolls off the Secundit River Bridge. We want to see an IG, an Inspector General, added to the stable at the State House. And people are surprised, and I was surprised. I mean, the average tax bite per citizen nationally, state tax, is $5,500. Rhode Island, it's $8,052. And a state that has an IG, and there's only 9 of them, it's $5,500 or lower. The best example is Florida. Florida has not one IG, but one in each department. Their tax bite per resident, $3,300. $3,355, $8,052. We have 990,000 people. The budget in New Hampshire, 1.5 million people, 7.1. New Hampshire, 5.7. Maine, 7.1, again, 1.5 million people. Delaware, which is second line, it's only 4.1 billion. We're at 9.2. I mean, there's something terribly out of whack, and we really need somebody to get in there and go through it.
We have a guest coming on at 8 o'clock hour who's got some fairly stunning figures, because what he does is he juxtaposes average income, which is often used as a barometer of where a society stands. Very often it's used as a barometer of the educational system, how much is spent per student, all these different figures. And what he does is he takes the cost of living and essentially applies that through his own index system to each of the individual. He'll do a much better job of explaining it, but to each individual state. And what's fascinating and frankly disturbing is that when you take the relatively high per capita income in the state of Rhode Island, but apply the high cost of living, you will see that our standard of living, I believe, came out 42nd in the nation. And that is...
Well, after seeing that 3,355, 8,050, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
He takes a rather common sense approach to the numbers, and because we're often led to believe, because we spend so much per student, because we spend so, and people make so much, that Mississippi, or at least we're not Alaska, Mississippi or what? Hold on, it's ugly. So you're going to be doing, I think, what I like to encourage every state rep to do, but you're doing it on your own initiative. You're going to be circulating a petition, and you're going to be, dare I say, actually having face-to-face conversations with your constituents. You and John Keith are. What's your shoe budget per year? Because the two of you are just. You are the Energizer Bunnies of Rhode Island politics, and I say that with love, because you're everywhere and anywhere when it comes to your district. And I say this as someone from far. You and I have only met a couple of times. I say this as someone who observes from afar. What are some of the groups that you visit with on a routine basis? It's stunning. It's so eclectic. But give us some of the groups that you're routinely interfacing with.
Oh, sure. I've been doing several things with the India Association. A lot of the different groups. We're in the Latino community. We're in the Cambodian. We're in the Laotian community. I mean, we try to get out there. The Haitian community, the Liberian community. I mean, we're out there. I mean, I call myself the new Republican because unfortunately, my party needs to do a better job of getting out there. I understand the dynamic. I understand the sense. People want to be heard. People want to know that you care. And my wife and I, we're a clergy couple, and she's here tonight. We're now a legislative couple. We're joined at the hip. If they see me, they expect to see her. But we don't do photo ops. We don't go to an event and do a photo op and leave. If we're not going to spend 2-3 hours with these people, we don't go. Because you want to get to know them, and you want to get to know what their issues are. So yes, I'm a representative from Cranston, but I also sit on the state committees for HEW and veterans, as well as the Environment and Natural Resources. So I want to know what other people think. So we're in Central Falls, we're in Pawtucket, we're in Providence, and we go to all kinds and support all kinds of events because it's important. And I do a lot of veteran stuff. I'm a disabled vet. I'm going to be doing prayers later this month for the Root Memorial back in my uniform. I do that every year. And I advocate for veterans as well. But children and veterans really are my passions. And so you got to get around and you got to meet these people and you got to get to know them. And I think they know we care and they care back. And I think it's important.
So the unique part of your perspective is that when you discuss an issue with them, it's really a mosaic. All sorts of cultures, religions, economic backgrounds,
Exactly.
education, everything. Do you sense any appetite? I'm going to put you on the spot here for a second. This week, Go Local Prov treated us to the fact that the state had spent $1 million on behalf of the Johnson & Johnson Corporation in a build-out that they will use for a very limited period of time. This was sort of underreported amongst the whole tax, the financing scheme that brought them here. We were also treated to the notion that there really is no long-term commitment for Johnson & Johnson to stay here, despite the fact that we are spending tens of thousands of dollars per job. One of the underreported aspects of dealing with an immigrant community is just how entrepreneurial these communities are. Most of these folks have gotten a toehold here in the United States, bluntly, by starting their own businesses. It was, you're talking about different languages, different alphabets, in some cases different religions. It's not easy for them to walk into an existing job in corporate America. They're not going to get hired by one of the big companies right away. They're new to our shores. Their method of survival is to be entrepreneur. How does all these different communities, do you get a sense that there's any degree of support for these sort of tax giveaways to big companies from all these independent entrepreneurs who are really using their own risk capital and sweat equity to just get a toehold here in this country?
I think their focus is very localized. I mean, they're looking for opportunities. Even my wife talks about this. When she was growing up, we're a little older, there weren't the opportunities for women entrepreneurs to get funding and loans and things. But I got to applaud the Latino Professional Business Association. They are one of the driving forces that brings these folks together, and and they're starting even at the high school level and working with these kids and with young people and people who are interested. So there are these associations. The Rhode Island Black Business Association, Lisa Ranglin. There are some good organizations that are doing some really hard work. Women's YMCA and there's a women's fund too. So there's some really good organizations standing up, but focusing on the local level. I don't think they're looking more at the larger level because they're so focused on the local level. But they want some of those resources. I mean, we brought GE in $5 million for, was it 50 jobs? So
That we haven't seen yet, by the way.
and we weren't guaranteed any more. And I heard when the CEO was speaking up at the State House, he says, "You are competing against Paris, Rome, London, Rhode Island, Providence, Rhode Island. You're competing. We'll see who does what, and that's where the jobs will go, ultimately."
So there's the price of admission, which is some type of ludicrous tax break, and then there's not even a guarantee beyond the most primary level.
No.
Do you think we're capable of learning at this point? I would say, when are we going to learn? But are we even capable of learning at this point?
Well, let's look at it this way. I think the states I look at, like I look at Massachusetts, I look at Florida. The governors, both in those states, are former CEOs of major corporations. There's something to be said for people running states who've run businesses. I think they come at it with a different mindset. Governor Baker, very successful, most popular governor in the country. Governor Rick Scott's done very well in Florida. There's some other governors around, the governor of Kentucky. But I think sometimes coming out of the business world and looking at an issue from a business sense, as opposed to a lifelong politician, I think sometimes makes a difference.
But that's interesting, because Gina Raimondo, ostensibly her pitch was that she was a sensitive, caring person with a business background, yet has displayed, certainly if you're a medical cannabis patient, none of, as you pointed out in your opening remarks, I mean, put people through hell last year to get an exorbitant tax on medical cannabis put in place, and she was not as successful as she would have been, and we're only to find out that the money that is being taken, literally ripped from the pockets of the desperately ill, is being put into the general fund. It's not even being used to administer the program. That was the driving factor. So you have on that level, and yet, to a certain degree, we've had to rescue the pension system that she almost ran into the ground. So, what do we, as far as I'm concerned, this election cycle can't happen quickly enough.
I definitely think that a state this size, with the size of budget we have, we're way over budgeted, and I believe that we need to go in there and look hard, and and I think even listen to the speaker on the radio this morning, talking about the people that do the essential services. What I liked about former Governor Chafee after he got elected, he put a semi-freeze on new positions, new hiring. And in addition, he went to each department and he talked to the folks. What's going on? What do you need? That at the least, because when you got, and DCOF's a good example, 35 administrators at $100,000, you need 119 social workers, and you're not going to hire anybody till tragedy happens. That's not the way you do business.
Right. It sounds almost cliche, but it's horrific. We have a bloated DCYF budget where a significant part of the money isn't going to help those in need, that we all agree, regardless of our political persuasion, that little children, it's horrifying.
It really is. It really is. It's heartbreaking, and we got to get it right. And Chairman Serpa, Pat Serpa, has been doing, I think, yeoman's work on the oversight committee, trying to get to the bottom of this. And
you HIP as well.
Yeah, and her outrage is is justified, and I give her credit. I think she's done a great job.
So. This weekend, so where is you've got a brunch tomorrow?
Coffee with constituents at Panera Bread and Sacanasa Crossroads in Cranston. My constituent coffee, I do it the last Saturday of every month from 8 to 10. And then, of course, we're going up to support the Gloria Gemma breast cancer on Saturday. And then starting Sunday, we're going to hit the streets.
Excellent. Please let us keep in touch with us and let us know how you're doing.
Absolutely.
You and I need to talk offline just about some of these issues that are going on, because there's a commonality here that I think we need to explore, and best of luck with this petition, because folks, whether the petition we have on fightthestadium.com, whether it be the physical petition that Rep. Lancia is going to be walking around with, to a large degree, that and your ability to call the speaker, call your state representative, this may be your only chance to literally vote on this. There's absolutely no guarantees, despite any form of political pressure we face, that folks will get a chance to weigh in. If you don't spend a few minutes, and folks, I know how exhausted people are. I'm out there talking to people every day, and I know how just frustrated and I know how defeatist some folks are, and you've got good reason to be cynical. I don't blame anyone for that. But everyone can take 5 or 10 minutes from their day.
And here's the thing. I have the kids up at the State House, and we do the mock legislative session. We do a tour. We do the pizza lunch, and we always stop at the state flag. And I say, look at that state flag. I said, you notice there's an anchor in the word hope. Where does it come from? And I happen to be a former Navy chaplain. I'm an ordained American Baptist minister. But I say to them, it's from a passage in the New Testament portion of the Bible. Hope is the anchor of the soul. Hope is the anchor of the soul. I said, when you have hope, there's always a chance. When you are hopeless, so I try to give people hope, and I want people to feel like if they voted for you or me, you're right. They're working hard, maybe 2 jobs. It's hard. They got kids. They expect when they hire you or me, when they vote us in, that we are going to have their best interest at heart. That we're working for them, not for ourselves, not for a higher office, not for some special interest, but for them, for their best interest. And I try every single day. That's what's in the forefront of my mind. I'm just trying to do the best for my constituents. And I think that's what we need to expect from our public officials, and that's what I always try to emulate.
No, absolutely. Listen, folks, you don't have to, Fortunately, you've got warriors like Representative Cia doing it. You don't have to walk 2,500 houses this weekend. You don't have to be at every single event. You don't have to do that, but you do have to participate. And your failure to participate comes at your own risk. You'll always have the right to complain, and you'll always have the right to. But if you don't take these opportunities, it is not hopeless. We cannot be defeatist. I will always point out the absence of a baseball stadium from the Providence skyline as proof positive that a group of dedicated, hardworking, stressed out, double job folks got together from an incredible variety of political beliefs 2 years ago and prevented that from happening. I'll say every time, because I'm tired of listening to the notion that I'm negative or cynical, that I don't have beliefs and that I have no hope. If it wasn't for those people, and there's legion, you've met some of them here on this show, we would have spent $120 million. Well, we're down to 38. So even as a product of the New Jersey public school system, I can point out that we saved, it was a large group of people, saved this state $82 million. In light of the current deficit, in light of the current challenges to DCYF and UHIP and all that $82 million looms very, very large. It's proof positive that everyone and anyone can have a positive impact on how we do business here in this state. So be not defeatist. The fact that in these last two hearings, and I'll use the coalition air quotes, hearings, despite the fact that they, as I said earlier, literally trotted out every single paid employee of the Pawtucket Red Sox baseball club and tried to pretend that that was representative of the body politic, I say to that, balderdash. Call Representative Mattiello. Be polite, be on point, be brief. Tweet Representative Mattiello. Reach out to Senate President Ruggiero. Reach out to the governor. Never forget that it was, and you've heard me refer to this a number of times the last week, but it's illustrative of the bigger picture, that it was halfway through a presentation by the Pawtucket Red Sox Baseball Club to the Commerce Corporation just 2 short years ago, halfway through when presented with overwhelming public opposition in the face of a dozen different political groups' leaders standing outside of that very meeting, that the governor, halfway through the press availability, emailed the press, real profile and coverage here, asking the Pawtucket Red Sox to come back with a better offer. And that was because of your pressure and the groups that you belong to and the people who are listening to you. They changed that. They can do that again this time. Quite frankly, in the last 3 or 4 days, I take heart because I think they're on the run. I think they realize that people have woken up to the fraudulent nature of the economic claims being perpetrated by the Pawtucket Red Sox Baseball Club on the people of Rhode Island. Folks will constantly say, well, didn't have a problem with it 20 years ago. Well, we've woken up. We see the big lie. We've got other concerns. Our other concerns are the educational system in this state, the highway and infrastructure in this state, fairness in taxation, our children, the most challenged amongst us, the chronically ill. We see these folks. We see the homeless. We see any one of a number of causes that folks can either give through government or better yet privately to help if they are given the resources and free to do so. None of which has to do with government, as you pointed out, supporting the dreams of a couple of multi-billionaires, according to Go Local reporting, the 10th wealthiest ownership group in all of professional sports. I asked Don Grebian, I said, why don't they just do it on their own? I'm convinced they would be folk heroes overnight. I'm convinced that even with all the things that we've gone through in the last 2 years, that the people of Rhode Island would turn around and embrace their own personal investment in a state where they were choosing to become members of the community as opposed to trying to be bought by the community. Because that's how we are as Rhode Islanders. They could be folk heroes overnight.
Great.
Well, thank you again, and just please let me know how this goes this week. We'll be talking otherwise, but again, thank you for getting it down.
Absolutely.
All right?
Thank you.
Representative Lancia.
Thank you.
Folks, we're going to take a very quick break right now. Waiting in the wings is Capri Catanzaro. She, of course, of progressive Democrats fame. As I pointed out on the media earlier today, someone from Narragansett called into the Tamara Granahan show and complained, if you will, that somehow we weren't being positive. And all we had to do was saying negative things about this Pawtucket Red Sox investment. And I, of course, said balderdash. There's a great deal of positivity that has come out of this. And tonight is a perfect example of that. Thanks to your Pawtucket Red Sox, thanks to the fine folks in the mayor's office of Pawtucket, people of all political stripes have come together, unified, willing to work together to cast aside their differences, well, maybe for the time being, but cast aside their differences and work together towards a common goal, which is to eliminate cronyism in the state, to eliminate this sort of crony corporatism, this corporate welfare that has been a cancer on this state economically for generations. It hasn't worked. It's failed 1970s voodoo economics. It hasn't ever worked yet. Why they insist on us doing it again and again is beyond me. Why?